In a chat with State House correspondents, Governor Ayade reveals his presidential aspiration.
The truth is that my approach to the president is different. I will support the president's candidate. Even though I'm on standby, if I'm available, if I'm my choice, I will support the president's candidate. And the president says, you are not outside of my view. Go, I give you blessing, go and consult. Ensure that you engage with key people while I watch. So I think it's a clear indication that I have the right to go and try to go and declare. So I will.
In a question and answer session on contesting potentially with the former president Goodluck Jonathan if he joins the APC and becomes the party's flag bearer, Governor Ayade says he has respect for the former president and that if it is the decision of the APC to field him as its candidate, he would support him.
This conversation today, and we're keeping to our promise. Joining us live on the program this morning is Professor Ben Ayade, the Executive Governor of Cross River State, now presidential aspirant of the All Progressives Congress. Joins us live from Abuja. Your Excellency, thank you for joining us on the program. Well, I'll begin from something you said. It's good to have you. Something you said right there when after you visited the president, and you said that yes, you're on standby, but you have a right to declare for president. So just to be clear, are you or have you declared your intention to run for president?
Yes, I have declared my intention to run for president. Also, the standby status was before meeting the president. Having received the approval from Mr. President, I am fully on the race as an aspirant as it is today.
Well, we saw some of your colleagues, fellow aspirants, pick up the form. Some, it was delivered to them. That was yesterday, the 100 million naira nomination form and expression of interest form of the APC. Have you done that?
Well, I know I have a lot of supporters. They're all working up together to see how that can be done almost immediately. I am sure that I will do that in the course of time.
Okay, so essentially, you're not taking out the money from yourself. You're depending on people to purchase the EOI and nomination form for you.
That's politics. Yes.
But does anything stop you from taking the money from your pocket or from your account this time around and purchasing it?
We're talking about a contesting an election for the office of the President of Nigeria. You can't do it alone. You can't. So you must have a team. You must have people who see something good in you that are encouraging and supporting you. And that's what is required for you to be able to pick that form.
Well, how confident are you, Your Excellency, that those people will come through for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely very confident. Very confident.
Okay, so yesterday we were talking about your antecedents in office, and I think that's a great place to start because we're on the verge of another election or leadership recruitment process, so to properly put that in perspective. And Nigerians are looking to recruit the right leader who has the right qualities, the right solutions to solve the problems, the myriads of challenges we're faced in the country. So what makes you think you're that right leader with the right solutions for Nigeria?
Well, I'm the right leader because I know very well that the Cross River State that I run today was beset with a lot of challenges. I came in when for the first time in 7 years, the state is having steady salary and pensions without recourse to prolonged and protracted delays. I understand clearly also the issues of poverty because I was born into a very humble background. Having conquered poverty in my private life, in my corporate and business world, before moving into politics, having served as a senator, having served as a two-term governor, I'm heavily weaponized with all the experiences that is so required. Experientially, I've achieved so much in the state to demonstrate clearly that I understand the challenges of running this country. Judging it against the background that Cross River State was basically declared almost insolvent before I became a governor. So I have no access to loans. So struggling with my bare knuckles to drive a state with over 4.2 million people, as it were, is quite challenging. So I know what it takes to come to the national, where I have sovereign power and sovereign authority, with the vast natural resources available to the country, with my understanding of 42 ways of doing business without money. I think I'm properly equipped to really tackle and address the issues of this country.
Well, one of the issues that a number of people have pointed to is, what exactly, just as our guest said earlier, you know what a man will do by what he has done before. And there are those who will point to maybe one or two projects in Cross River State that you promised that would be done maybe within a year, and some of them are still waiting for completion. So I don't know how you would confirm or affirm to people that I'm the right person for the job. For instance, there are those who point to the spaghetti flyover in Cross River State, and they're wondering, after like 2 or 3 budget cycles, the project is still waiting for that long-sought completion, just for an instance.
Well, I wish you, as you were speaking, you had a picture of the spaghetti flyover at this moment. The spaghetti flyover was not a standalone project. It had its connection with the Calabar-Odukpani dualization of the federal road, for which the federal government said they would not reimburse us. But they had a lot of bottleneck at Odukpani Junction, so you can't get into Calabar. Sometimes you spend days. So I decided to do the dualization of that project and then have a spaghetti flyover across it. The dualization has been completed. It's part of the spaghetti flyover project. The major abutments of the spaghetti flyover has been completed as well. So we're on the wing walls, and at this moment, the wing walls are at finalization stage. Percentage completion of the project is about 92%. Let me explain something to you. Are you aware that just a month back, our allocation was 34 million naira? The month before then was minus 171 million naira. Are you aware of the allocation of Cross River State? Then if you know, relative to what others get, then you call me a magician.
Well, seeing that, you know the financial status of Cross River State before all those the promises were made in 2018, and then with the affirmation that by maybe 2019 or 2020, the project, that particular one, would be completed. And there have been a couple of, the deadline, so to speak, has been pushed 1 or 2 times. So you knew the financial status of Cross River State. And so I'm almost certain that you weren't only waiting for that allocation. There must have been some other things, as you said, some other ways of doing business without money that, you had tried to champion. So I'm wondering, how is that a factor?
I don't understand. Can you show me where I gave a deadline that this is the date I will finish spaghetti flyover and the Odukpani dualization? I have completed the Odukpani dualization.
Okay.
Go and see.
Is that to say that there is no deadline?
Don't go. You want to interview me, you go to social media to pick up.
No, Your Excellency. Let's just speak to the fact.
It's all done.
Let's just speak to the fact.
So
is it
why did I promise it? Listen,
okay.
I promised, listen, I made a promise and I'm committed to that promise. And I'm driven by my vision. I am not limited by the financial challenges, in spite of the fact that I've done the analysis for you. Obviously, if you get there to the site today, you see that it's a done deal, completed work. And by the side of it, you have the 6-lane superhighway, which is at stone base stage already, with an MC work being applied by this week. Separate from the dualization of the Odukpani. You see, what people don't understand is that if you have a budget provision for like, say, 18 billion, for the spaghetti flyover and the dualization of the Odukpani Road, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have all of that 18 billion in one budget cycle. So if it moves to the next budget cycle, you didn't shift the date. I only provided for it in the budget, and if it's not met, I move it to the next budget cycle. It doesn't mean that I had a deadline in the budget that I must finish it this year. If it's quite sad the way people understand budgeting system.
Okay. Your Excellency,
the important thing is that the project is completed.
Okay. So you're saying that the spaghetti flyover, the entire project is completed now, Your Excellency?
Yes, the Odupani dualization component of it is completed.
Okay.
The component of the spaghetti flyover is at 90% because it's there physically for you to see.
Okay. So is it, are we to expect use from 2023?
That should be used to 2022.
2022, so it's fully completed by 2022.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, Your Excellency,
of course.
You know, there are a number of questions that people will be asking about what the next president of Nigeria should be focusing on. You have listed three: security, economy, and power. And these are issues that we have dealt with consistently for many years. Power, for instance, we have been struggling with this for many decades. Just a few months ago, I saw a headline on the front page of the old Daily Times newspaper pointing to power solutions are going to be done with this year. Maybe that was in the 70s or in the 80s. Economy, we've been struggling with economic policies as far back as the 80s, from the austerity measures of 1980, 81, 82, to the structural adjustment program, all kinds of policies, first years, FEM, and all of that. And today we still have those issues. And security, of course. It's something that is gaping. What are you bringing to the table that we have never used before?
Okay, thank you. Be a little patient with me. Let me start with power. The electricity challenge of this country is very frustrating. The solution will be simple. You have to regionalize this country and develop a solution that fits a particular region. Today in Nigeria, we have a massive Atlantic coastline from where we can use hydro technology as a way to produce electricity to serve the whole of this country. There is a superhighway master plan that connects Calabar to the northeast. And on that northeast axis, you can have your transmission line that runs directly from the Atlantic Ocean, from Calabar, and terminates in Borno with a spur to Kano. You can have another major turbine from Port Harcourt that draws electricity through yet again another superhighway that connects maybe again to Kaduna, and of course one from Lagos to Sokoto. On these lines, you can properly run your transmission line. The structure today, we have a vertical mercantile structure where government holds the monopoly of the transmission system. And because of that monopoly, and because of the partial risk guarantee by World Bank, people begin to realize that if there is a failure in the transmission line, the generating companies will continue to get their payments. So there is a deliberate effort to disrupt the transmission line in order to keep them in business. So what you need to do, if I come in as president, first of all, I take the Niger Delta, for example, South-South. I provide you a specific power structure that generates and redistributes in a ring-fence structure within the captive structure of the Niger Delta. And it doesn't have to be owned by federal government. I can get in Siemens. Can you go and put your hydro turbines and drive me electricity that feed the Niger Delta? Then I can go to Lagos, put another turbine, maybe call in Alstom or call in Solar, call any other company. In UK today, you have EDF of France supplying electricity in the UK. So you don't, I think this pattern we use for the telecoms should be applied even in the case of power. If we have 6 major power generation and distribution companies, make it fully independent and let them only pay royalties to federal government, you will find out that Siemens or GE or Alstom will be able to run their systems and generate electricity. Kano, Jigawa have a massive deposit of silica, best candidate for the production of photovoltaic cells. So you put solar energy there, put solar farms, concentrate them in lithium batteries as a master farm, and now generate and distribute electricity. change most of our consumption structures and reduce the amount of energy being consumed with the old-fashioned equipment we have in the course of time. And this is what we need at this time. Subsurface underwater current is a major source of electricity that Canada has developed to a very huge success. If you go to Germany to say, state of Bavaria, almost everything has turned to mini hydro. About 4,000 mini hydros generating electricity. Everybody is moving away from gas to power. We're still struggling to do gas to power. Gas should be used for nanotechnology. Gas should be used for export, for nitrogenous fertilizer, ammonia production, and what have you. I mean, there's too much renewable energy available for energy generation. The problem is that federal government is carrying the burden of power. Decentralize it into the 6 regions and have the 6 regions advertise it and have 6 different multinational companies generate the electricity, transmit it, distribute, collect tariff, and also pay the royalty to the federal government, as well as the states. 2, on security. Security has a very huge international dimension. And what's the dimension? Nigeria has so many essential elements, trace metals, and metals of economic interest. So the solid mineral deposit has become a source of challenge for the nation. The international community, locally and across the whole globe, has an eye. Nigeria has a massive deposit of tantalite, which is like coltan. They have lead, they have zinc, they have gold, uranium. The deposits are so huge. And most times in Africa, once you have such deposits, it's just an invitation for crisis, because they'll keep you unsettled so that they can do the exploitation. What you must understand is that, I kept saying this, if President Buhari was not a president, the security situation of this country could have been worse. But because you don't trace it to the historical background of where we are, you will never see how much he has done. The collapse of Afghanistan means that ISWAP, that believes that West Africa is their own God-given province, who are desperately looking for how to wipe out all the residents in West Africa today, including Christians and Muslims, because they believe that the Muslims in West Africa, as it is today, with their Western education, are infidels just like Christians. So they have a policy to occupy West Africa. And with the collapse of Afghanistan, they now have access to power. They have a sovereign nation called their own, and they deal on drugs, sell those drugs to raise funds, buy arms, and prosecute a huge war. This is what President Muhammadu Buhari is facing. So if you don't know it, you say, okay, there is an attack, and you accuse the president. But that attack, even if you look at southern Algeria, it takes over 30 years. When you have a guerrilla attack of that nature, it takes over 30 years to wipe them off. But in this country, at a point in time, we had Boko Haram flags on certain lands of Nigeria. They used to be bombing in Abuja. All that has been addressed.
Well, Your Excellency, we're due for a break in about a minute. Pardon me, we're due for a break in about a minute, so I just wanted to give heads up. But just on the point you made, I've seen you try to draw a nexus between, mineral resources in Nigeria and insecurity, as well as the fall of maybe Afghanistan and others to the insecurity in Nigeria. But you also said that, again, you repeat that, security could have been worse under the president. So in about 30 seconds before we go to break, is that an admittance first that indeed security is bad now? It's not worse, but it is bad. No. You met a very challenging situation. President Muhammadu Buhari made a challenging situation, held it, and been able to pull back the terrorist attacks. And you judge him based on one occasional incident. And I'm saying, if he was not there, it could have been worse than what he met. But he has made a lot of improvement. You are not noticing because it is the normal human nature. If there is one single isolated incident, it's celebrated. Accumulate them all against the danger, the potential that ISWAP has so much capacity today. Boko Haram linked to Al-Qaeda, ISWAP to ISIS, all targeting Nigeria, their mineral resources. Jesus Christ.
It is because people don't understand the international dimension of this security challenge that they dismiss it as if it is a Nigerian issue or it is a leadership issue. It is a global issue with the focus and attention on keeping Nigeria unstable. And so you need some international strategic and security connection to actually address the issue. It's far beyond the president and capacity of the president of Nigeria. It must be something that the nation must cry out to the international community and seek sophisticated digital non-contact warfare to be able to address the challenge.
All right, Your Excellency, we'll go to break now, but clearly so much to still talk about, so please stay with us. Well, let's continue our conversation with His Excellency Professor Ben Ayade, the Executive Governor of Cross River State. Well, still on the issue of security, I mean, it's been 30 days since that attack and eventual kidnap of passengers on the Kaduna-Abuja train and a lot of other incidents, which you are well aware of. And you said that we need international support. We need to get, hands on deck from outside the country, since this also has an international dimension, clearly saying that more works need to be done in that area. So how can you get that support, that help that this government has not been able to get enough of? How would you achieve that?
First, let me draw something that is so shocking to you. If you look at a country like Tanzania, if you look at countries like Democratic Republic of Congo, what is their crisis? Massive copper fields, massive deposits of coltan, and they are perpetually kept under tension by the international community because there are international communities that are interested in their natural resources. Nigeria is just extremely lucky by the capacity of the sitting president. The manipulations of our natural resource to become a source of our disadvantage is very huge. And if you check what happens to African nations, once you have natural resource, it's a source of your crisis. Either you have an Ebola virus coming after you, you have HIV coming after you. There's an international conspiracy that is so orgasmic that what is required of this nation is a unity between the led and the leaders. It is not sitting there and pointing fingers. 21st century illiterate points at challenges. The modern educated man is value addition. So back to your question, how do you get international support when the source of your problem actually has an international connectivity? That complexity requires the sophistry of the president to know how to pussyfoot and know where and which country to actually have its own strategic alignment. Today, if you go to places like most of these Northern African countries, young men are being hired at $120 a month to come into Nigeria and kill. So much that some of the locals begin to depend on terrorists to protect them. Like the kidnap that you just saw in the train, are they not releasing them for a ransom? So even the locals are beginning to say, hey, wait a minute, kidnapping is a better trade than trading on cattle. So there is a sociological disconnection between the historical trade of a people and the version of trading with human beings for money. So if selling one cow or selling 3,000 cows will not give you the money of kidnapping 2-3 children from a school, why would I continue to be in the atavistic trade of moving from one place to the other? Same thing applies in the South. If kidnapping by militants gives them more money, why do I suffer to be able to say I want to go to the farm to grow better seed? So there's a restructuring of our mentality occasioned by ease of getting money because of the infiltration of Nigeria by most of the people who have come in as terrorists. So the bandits developed in the process, leading to kidnapping, while the terrorists who have a bigger philosophy of taking over West Africa. So we are being attacked from two prongs. One, drawing its basis from Al-Qaeda to Boko Haram and ISIS to ISWAP down to all of them targeting Africa. But at the same time, they are fighting each other. So Boko Haram fell because of the collapse of Osama bin Laden.
Right.
Boko Haram collapsed because its leadership became weakened, and ISWAP is stronger and trying to wipe out Boko Haram.
Well,
so they come into Nigeria and say, we have surrendered.
Well,
in the
Prof,
process, they get assimilated into the country.
Right.
And because there is no major source of livelihood, banditry sets in. I'm trying to give you this.
And I really like the background.
And the root cause of the crisis.
I like the background you're creating, Prof. But so we can, I mean, you said that this should be solution focused. And I mean, the background provides a lot of insight.
Yeah.
So let me try to restructure the question. If you today, I mean, you've had meetings with the president. If you today could advise President Muhammadu Buhari as regards security or insecurity in Nigeria, saying, President, I think this is where we should lean, what would that advice be?
First, I will congratulate him for even being alive to date, because I know that every West African country that has this amount of mineral resources, the president is a target. I gave you an example of a country as a good example. So if I am not in a position to advise my president, unless I am being asked to do so. At this point, I would prefer to tell you, what will I do? Because
asking you to do so, hypothetically speaking now, Your Excellency.
So ask me what I can do.
Which is what we're doing. This is hypothetically, if you were to advise the president on security.
If I was the president, if I am to be president, the president sitting is an army general, and I want to restrict my sociology and understanding of African respect, that I'm not in a position to give him such advice, particularly in the public. Let me say what I would do if I become president of Nigeria on security. First thing, I will recognize the fact that a non-contact war is the conventional way to go today.
All right.
You need to generate the people's army. He needs to understand that you need to embrace technology and bring in technology to bear. You need to have a satellite positioning system that allows you an infrared spectroscopy into what happens within this, our theater of war across the northern hemisphere of our country. You must also have a situation where you can have a direct attack without using human contact, which means you have to employ the technology of drones, like the Turkey technology. You have to also realize that Israel and Turkey combination, who are not directly involved in the crisis of Nigeria today and who are not beneficiaries of our crisis today, can be good partners for discussion, because it is real. That is why you must realize that there are certain countries, if you go to discuss with them on Nigerian issue, they will never listen to you, because they are beneficiaries of the crisis we've got. There are small countries that have high impact technology that we can benefit by hand-holding us through the process of dealing with these issues. But to dismiss guerrilla tactic warfare and terrorism of this nature and reduce it to the inefficiency of a government, it will be abusing ourselves, because it shows that we have not understood the dimension of international terrorism that has infiltrated Africa with a deliberate intent to reduce Africa from being a civilized continent.
Well, let me bring in
Africa
this dimension.
1.3 billion people in a market, right. 1.3 billion people, and they have so much natural resource, 65% of their population within the age of 35 years and below. A very green population, massive natural resource deposit. If Africa finds technology, Africa will lead the world. So,
well, let me bring in this dimension.
I don't want to mention countries. There's a national program. There's an international program. Africa is the biggest market for Europe and America, and Africa must be kept as a market. So you can't allow them to find their feet. So there's an international dimension that is far more complex.
Right. So let me bring in another dimension, because you talked about Turkey and maybe countries that have experienced similar issues. And Turkey, for example, I mean, the president was in Nigeria months back, and he made statements about a certain group, which he said, well, they consider that group as a terrorist group, and saying that they have operations in Nigeria. But that particular group, for example, is not recognized as a terrorist group in the EU or by the EU, UN. In fact, the head of that group stays in the US as I speak. So that's a very tricky part. So, for example, you want to have collaborations with Turkey, but then Turkey is saying, well, there's a group within your country that we see as terrorists and we need you to perhaps clamp down on that. But in the same guise, the UN, EU, which we have a relationship with, the US, don't exactly see that group as a terrorist organization. So that dimension, how would you tackle that, for example?
Well, that is part of the complex security nexus, and that's kind of subject for which I have a detailed solution to an answer to that, but it's not a subject for television discussion.
Right.
Indeed, I think I want to be careful so that I don't reveal too much.
Okay.
I also have to be safe.
I'll let you go on that one because safety is very key, Your Excellency. But you know, these solutions which you have talked about, you've had the opportunity as a senator, I mean, since 2011, now as governor. And I mean, these solutions which you speak about, I imagine you should have brought them to the table either as a senator on the floor of the Senate, as a governor at the different levels, is it NEC, is it NGF, or as a governor in your state, perhaps try these solutions. So to what extent have you tried to bring these solutions on board as a senator, as a governor, and what do you have to show for it?
Well, the solutions I have prescribed for Nigeria are of international dimension. For Cross River State, I have a local solution. The local solution I adopted in Cross River State. Cross River State is in a borderline between Cameroon and 4 other states, and perpetually at war with both Cameroon and these neighboring states. 32 illegal land routes into Nigeria, into Cross River from Cameroon. Some parts of Cross River speaks the same dialect with some parts of Cameroon. So when they cross, you will never know. We have over 68,000 refugees in Cross River State. The Amazonian conflict is raising a lot of young men to be able to fight Cameroon. So you can see the crisis that I am dealing with. Cross River State has, if you fly from Calabar to Obudu, you are still in the same state. 7 hours journey, you are still in the same state, stretching from the Atlantic coastline to northern Nigeria. So I give you an idea of the security challenges of a state that I run. Unfortunately, Calabar became the recruitment ground for the Amazonian people. So you now have small and light weapons proliferation within Calabar. And to make matters worse, we also have a maritime boundary. So the Gulf of Guinea is awash with this piracy, and all of them draw their social life out of Cross River State. That's the amount of tension, in summary, to tell you what I'm dealing with. To manage it, I expanded government and placed people on a social welfare program of 30,000 naira per month, a massive number. I decided to expand government to create opportunity for people to earn income even if they are not working. People don't realize that it's a security strategy. They mistake it for a political strategy. If it was, I have no election to run, I would have stopped it. I've been doing it for 8 years. But that security kinematics and a boloscopy that I've been able to manage, occasioned by the fact that I've put food on people's table, has really helped dramatically. You will know it when Ayade is out of office. Now, it is difficult for you to sustain a payment structure for people who basically are being given money to be able to lower down tension. And to do so, it means that you have to have a steady source of income. But please check your records. I have a monthly deduction of about 1.8 to 2.2 billion every month from the state allocation. So whatever you read as an allocation of Cross River State, you have to subtract that figure. So how is this a security approach? By putting food on the table. I reduce the animalism which is in every one of us. You and I, we have our negativistic instincts, which are not manifest because our environment provides opportunity for us to feed. But when you are pushed to the world, you will see that there is a level of criminality in every human being.
Well, Your Excellency.
In order to minimize it.
My apologies. Please land on that point.
Yeah. Yes. In order to minimize it, I've decided to expand government and make sure that a lot of people earn salaries, even if they are not working.
Okay.
By this process of doing that, you will see that Cross River is safe. Number 2, we set up Cross River Homeland Security. The Homeland Security has a maritime component and has a land component. And we have Operation Akpako. And all of them are properly funded with the support of the Nigerian military, the police, the civil defense. Together we work as a team, including the Air Force, that does the occasional raids for us.
Your
to be able to
Excellency,
keep Cross River at peace.
Yeah,
Go to the police. The statistics shows that Cross River has the safest state, in spite of the fact that when federal government provided for the protection of the oil pipelines, Operation Delta State was set up across the whole of Niger Delta, except Cross River State.
Yeah.
So
Your
Cross River
Excellency,
became the safe haven
multiply
for all these people.
That challenge in Cross River State by 36 plus 1. That's what you would have to deal with as president. So you have to, that means you have to have operations for every state and perhaps every locality. Now, you've talked about what you have been able to do in Cross River State peculiarly to checkmate security by reducing poverty as much as you can. But the challenge of poverty isn't just going to go away by just one strategy. You have also spoken to the fact that a lot of the security have to do with one economic reason or the other. By the way, you haven't really spoken to the economic part. We'll come to that shortly. But how do you alleviate poverty in all the 36 plus 1 states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? You know that the federal government made that promise, was it 2018 or 2019, to take 100 million people out of poverty over 10 years. We have been trying to get the figures. I mean, by now we should have about 30 million Nigerians out of poverty. We are looking for those figures. Hopefully the federal government will be able to supply those figures to us. But we do not know whether we have up to 30 million Nigerians pulled out of poverty over the past 3 years. So in terms of eradicating, or as the woman leader a woman leader said yesterday on our program, reducing poverty to the barest minimum, what's your plan?
You cannot wish away poverty. Poverty, you have to have a structural and normative framework to deal with poverty and tackle it headlong. It's by creating jobs. It's by the resurgence of the middle class, which has been exterminated in the course of time. You can only achieve this by creating basic jobs that put food on people's table. And you cannot do a social program for a nation that is having challenges with its own dollar incomes. Therefore, if I become president of Nigeria, my number one focus will be on tackling the issues of unemployment and reducing youth residency. How do we achieve this? I give you a typical example. If you set up 6 regional centers to develop 6 new cities like Abuja was developed across the 6 regional centers, and so if you go to South-South, you have a capital of South-South. If you go to Northeast, you have a capital of Northeast. All of them will now come to Abuja as the capital of the country. When you attain a cityscape like in Dubai and pick up a city which is already designed and the people are ready to invest, you do nature for equity swap and they come in and start developing new cities, for example. Lawyers will be employed, architects will be employed, food sellers, surveyors. Almost everybody will have a job to do. It's keeping people busy. It's not even enough to put job on the people's table, but they have to also be physically busy.
Your Excellency, you just
because
raised
time is not on your side.
Yes, just a quick one. I think you just raised a constitutional or political conundrum, if I can use one of your words there, which is the fact that you want to regionalize the country. How does that work with the states on the one hand, given that some of these regions may not all belong to the same political party?
No, I talked about estate regionalization, not administrative regionalization. Okay. I'm talking about moving a country from third world to first world in physical development. I'm talking about creating opportunity for people to work. I'm talking about the advanced application of Keynesian theory that will make people dig holes and get others to close the hole. I'm talking about advanced application of Ayade theory to allow opportunity for people to deliberately work, even if it's not the essential focus of government, so that in the process, people have opportunity. So while you put food on the table, you put their hands on the plow.
I imagine that you've had at least 7 years now to engage this Ayadesian theory, perhaps another level, a Nigerian version of the Keynesian theory, I imagine. But still, unemployment rate in Cross River is the 3rd highest in the country. It's higher than the national average of 33%. It's at 53% in your state. And I think this is where we can now anchor on the economic angle. And the question is, seeing your performance in the state, I mean, they say you can judge what a man will do by what he has done. So on the one hand, the performance in your state, but then it's always said that Cross River has vast, potential in tourism. The Obudu Ranch, for example, there's been complaints that, traveling from Calabar all the way to Obudu takes such a long time because of a stretch of road, which is bad. You plan to actually construct that over 200-kilometer superhighway. So I hope we can do this in less than 2 minutes, but can you respond to the concerns about how well you've been able to transform the potentials in Cross River State for good, saying that unemployment is still high?
It is sad that you take about 3 minutes to ask a question and you want 2 minutes to give an answer.
Thank you.
That's the tragedy you find yourself. You are talking to me about tourism. My stomach is full of tourism. You're talking to me. So how do I start? But let me summarize. The access to Obudu Cattle Ranch is a big challenge. Today, I have an airport in Obudu being constructed, a brand new airport, which is a cargo stroke, a passenger airport of international standard. The entire airport we've done, 23 meters cutting to get to levels. But that airport will be ready, God willing, this year, maximum Q1 of next year. Please don't believe me. Just send somebody to, just Google it. You'll see the pictures physically. Because Nigerians must learn to put and enjoy themselves in this country. We can't keep exporting our money. So tourism and using the ranch is right. If you see, the ranch has been advertised for concession to international operators of tour programs. So with the Obudu Cattle Ranch that I'm developing and renovating, alongside with an international airport in Obudu, giving it out to an international tour organization, which is the program I have in place. It's been advertised already, I think on the 6th of this month. The advert is out, asking for people to express interest in running and operating Obudu International Airport along with the renovation of the Obudu Cattle Ranch to address the issue of tourism, to also address the issue of the great opportunity that are van and the unemployment issue in Cross River State. I set up factories. Garment factory is out, is there, is working. The pharmaceutical factory, instant noodle factory, Kalachika, the feed mill, the rice seed production factory, the cocoa factory, the vegetable oil factory. Most time when I say this, people say, are they producing? Are they working? And I laugh because I sympathize with myself. One man is trying to create an industrial platform where a state has been traditionally a tourism state and focusing in Calabar with over 70% of rainfall, making it a wrong candidate for a tourism center. And I'm struggling to bring people from the issue of pleasure of dancing and carnival and trying to let them know that industry before pleasure.
Well, Governor,
and I struggle to
Governor,
set up factories.
I think I've been fair enough.
I set up factories.
With my timing.
I set up factories.
Okay, you can land on that one.
And I'm expected to I'm also expected to also operate the factory. A government cannot operate factory. I can only catalyze the factories into existence. I have to evacuate them to private sector by way of concession, because I swore that I would never sell a government asset. And that's what I owe. Today you have Kali Air. I have 2 aircrafts on the ground. Those 2 aircrafts are to support the Obudu Airport, to be able to support tourism. Every local government has an industry feeding into the superhighway that empties into the Bakassi Deep Sea Port. I had a master plan, but I can't kill myself. I spent 2 years on COVID-19. I spent 3 years in court to get approval to do the superhighway. And then you turn back and say, oh, you've not done this because you promised it. Please, spare me. Please look at my passion and my vision.
And I think that's a great place to anchor. So I've been fair. At least took less than a minute to ask the question, and you took 3 minutes at least to respond. So,
thank you.
But
thank you.
Clearly, it's been an interesting conversation, Your Excellency, and we wish you the very best. We've been speaking with Professor Ben Ayade, the Governor of Cross River State, and now presidential hopeful. Thank you for your time this morning, Governor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.